This is a blade. This is a light. Wouldn't it be cool if somebody invented something that brought both of these really cool tools together into one? Oh, wait a minute. Hey everyone, Pete here from KnifeUp.com, and as you can probably imagine, somebody has already come up with the ingenious idea of adding a light to a blade. And that distinction goes to SOG. It's the SOG Bladelight. As with any knife, guys, you cannot have the perfect knife for everything. All right, there's no such thing as the perfect hunting knife, which is also the perfect everyday carry, or the perfect kitchen knife, which is the perfect survival knife. It doesn't work that way. Same thing with the SOG Bladelight. It has some great advantages, it's got some disadvantages. Let's take a look at those right now.
Yes! That's awesome!
Alright everyone, thanks for checking out our review of the SOG Bladelight Hunt. Alright, this is the Hunt version. There are other versions that have other capabilities. We won't get into those right now. This is the Bladelight Hunt. And before we get into the specs, just a couple of little notes. It's great. It's a great knife if you're looking for a fixed blade knife with a sheath. All right, so here's a quick look at the sheath. We'll talk about that in a second. And of course, you're carrying it on your hip. It also has a slightly wider handle, which we'll talk about in a second as well. So if you don't mind that, it's extremely comfortable, but it has to have a battery in order to have the light. So you can use the light and the blade obviously in the same tool, but not necessarily at the same time. There are reviews online that talk about how you're cutting with this inside the dark cavity of a big beast or something. That's fine, I get it, and that's legit, but for me, I don't use them at the same time. I use them, but at different times. So anyway, works either way. So let's just jump right into the specs, guys. The blade itself is satin polished 8CR13 MOV stainless steel, which is quite a decent blade. It's got a Rockwell hardness of 56 to 58, somewhere in that range, which is also quite good. Upper 50s is really not bad for most knives. Only the hardest carbon blades are over 60, so you're doing all right. It on the bolster here, which is this little chunk of steel, that'd be the bolster. On the back of it is the jimping. There's only 3 little grooves, and it's really not very aggressive, but neither do I think you really need anything more than that. So that kind of works. Right here in the blade, by the way, it's kind of a neat thing. I've never seen a knife quite like this. A huge finger choil here, so you can really choke up. Put your finger right in there, put your thumb on the jimping, and you can really get up close to the blade if you're doing some serious cutting and skinning. But it's just as comfortable back here as well. So you got a couple options there, which is really neat too. The overall length from way back here to the tip is 8.5 inches. And it's got a 4-inch blade from the lights in the handle itself to the very tip. You're looking at about 4 inches. I think officially on the SOG website it says 3.8 inches. The thickness of the blade back here, which goes through most of the blade until you get right to the very back, is about 1/8 of an inch. So it's quite thick. I haven't seen any thicker, especially on a blade this short. So you can use it for batoning. I have, just to prove a point, but I wouldn't bother unless you really need to. You're in a survival situation or something. It's a short blade, but it certainly has the toughness that you can definitely baton if you need to. The cutting length, actually, from right down here, where the choil begins, right to the tip is 3 inches. So it's a drop point blade. It has a flat grind across here, so it's just a straight line from the top of the blade itself right down to the cutting edge. Moving on to the handle, it's kind of a neat handle. It's thicker, as I mentioned, than other handles because it's got a battery in it, which I will show you. It's just a AAA that fits right into the pommel there in the back, and then that goes on like that. So the blade itself is glass reinforced nylon and thermoplastic rubber. So the black part, the nylon, is really, really hard. It's about as hard a plastic as I've felt. The orange part is slightly softer, but only slightly. You can't hear your fingernail as it taps it, but it's not squishy and gushy. You can't, push it in like you can on some knives. So all around, very, very tough handle. It's got 6 LEDs. So on the light itself, I don't know if you can really see. Yeah, it's kind of bright. Anyway, there are 3 along one side, 3 along the other. And so it's pretty shadowless. They advertise as being shadowless. If you're cutting and you need the light for cutting, you won't be disappointed. It really is about as shadowless as it gets. It also throws out 30 lumens, so it's a decent camp flashlight just on its own. So that's kind of what I use it for, have 2 tools in one. The sheath, let's talk about that just for a bit. It's kind of a neat sheath. When I picked this thing up, at first I thought it was plastic, because it's kind of got that, it's a really nice finish on it, like a typical plastic might, and it's pretty stiff, but it's actually leather, which is so much more advantageous, and yet the fact that it feels like plastic on the outside, I like that. I like leather sheaths that in this case, that feel like plastic because they're just really tough. So it's going to last a very, very long time. The only thing is, with this particular version of a Bladelight, you can't use you can't just put it in the sheath and somehow use your light effectively. I mention that only because there are other versions of a Bladelight which you do put into the sheath, and the sheath itself, as it sits in your sheath, it's used as a flashlight, and it's meant to be used as a flashlight, but that's not the case with the Bladelight Hunt, which we've got here. So the only other thing is that I didn't mention here at the very bottom, I don't know if you can really see it here. I'll try to bring it up close, see if it doesn't go out of focus. There is a little lanyard hole right here, and you can kind of rotate it around. If you loosen the battery compartment, you can kind of move it around like that. I don't really use it. It's no real advantage to me, but there it is. So those are some of the basic features of this knife. About enough for you to make a decision as to whether it's useful for you and you might want to take a look at it. It's decent if you need it as a survival knife, because it's got the lights, sort of a dual purpose kind of thing, or multi-purpose I should say. It's not really meant to be a survival knife, but it works in a pinch. All right, so that's just kind of a quick overview of some of the basic features of the SOG Bladelight Hunt. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching our quick sort of mini overview of the Bladelight Hunt. And as always, down in the description we have notes, different links that will help you as you do more research on the knife. We also have links to Blade HQ and Amazon where you can find them for an excellent price. And we also have links to our own store. It's kind of a new thing. You can check us out on knifeupstore.com. And it's got, when you go there, you'll see that it's not just knives, there's enough of those, but also camping gear and hunting, fishing, canoeing, whatever you do outdoors. We're into that. We are campers and fishermen and canoeists and all of that here at our house. And we own a lot of equipment, but we don't own all the things that we recommend. That's impossible. So we do a lot of research and we get a hold of a lot of the stuff, but we can't afford to keep it. So we just get to see it for a while and try to do a bit of a review on it so that we can give you some useful feedback. Some of the products we do actually buy. And then there are some products that we just can't get a hold of, but we do a lot of research on them and we see that the reviews are just amazing online, and so we feel fully confident in recommending them to you. So we hope that you can find some use from those, and remember that when you use our links to go to Amazon or Blade HQ or wherever, please know that it doesn't cost you a single penny. Not a single penny more. When you go to Amazon, what the price you see is the price you pay, but if you go through us, if you use our links, you're kind of just being nice to us and doing us a favor, because we get a couple of dollars for every product that you purchase. So it's not tons of money, but cumulatively, hopefully, that it'll pay for making these videos, and we're happy with that. So we appreciate your clicking our links and checking out our various videos that we have here online. So please keep doing that. And until we bring you our next video, friends, stay sharp.